It had been 5 long years since I had last laid eyes on my ex-wife. Yet as she entered the cafe, she appeared as changed and beautiful as ever. She took her seat and fixed her gaze on me, leaving me bewildered about why she had asked to meet today. Words eluded me, as I had never expected this moment to come to pass. Her plea for a second chance resonated deeply within me, igniting a spark of hope that we might still have time to make things right. Could we truly rebuild what we once had? I pondered, uncertain if our efforts would bear fruit. Regret had lingered in my heart since the day I left her, unable to fully understand her emotions. I knew that pushing her away now would only deepen that regret. "All right," I finally mustered, "let's give it another shot." And so, the clock of opportunity began ticking anew for us. My name is Henry Michael, and at 30 years old I have been working at a securities firm since graduating from college. In the beginning, the pressure of this high-stakes job had nearly driven me to quit several times. However, I persevered, questioning whether I could achieve more and eventually earn the title of an ace in the field. With each success, my ambition for my career grew. I yearned to enhance my performance further and secure promotions, determined to prove my capabilities beyond anyone's expectations. Even during my off hours, thoughts of work consumed my mind. As I chased my professional dreams, my time with my wife Rosie, whom I had married at 30, dwindled. Rosie, a dedicated homemaker, effortlessly managed household chores and provided balanced meals. She had been an exceptional wife, and our 20-year relationship, rooted in childhood friendship, was a source of great comfort. Rosie's father, Thomas, had been a significant influence in my life. He was a martial arts instructor at a local gym, and I had been under his tutelage since elementary school. After my father's passing when I was in the 3rd grade, my mother and I were left without family support. Thomas, who understood the hardships of single parenthood due to his own experiences, stepped in to help. Rosie may have been hurt, but I remained oblivious. It had been a while since I had truly looked at her. Then, one day, Rosie requested, "I want us to spend this weekend together. It's an important day. Please come home early. I need to talk to you about Dad. Can I explain it all in detail?" "Got it," was my absent-minded response. I didn't inquire about the significance of the important day or ask about Thomas. I had fallen into the habit of mindlessly responding to Rosie's words. As usual, I forgot my promise and ended up working late that weekend. The only message I sent was, "Working late, don't need dinner?" I didn't even acknowledge the forgotten promise. Typically, Rosie would respond promptly, but not this time. I paid it no mind, engrossed in my work. When I finally returned home after midnight, Rosie was gone, leaving behind a brief note and completed divorce papers. I yearned for more family time, but your job is your top priority. Good luck with your work, and please take care of your health. Reading those words, I finally recalled the promise I had made to Rosie. Glancing at the calendar, I realized it was marked as my birthday, the day she considered important. Rosie's birthday was a month earlier than mine, yet I couldn't recall ever celebrating it. She had planned to celebrate my birthday despite me being unable to remember hers. Surveying the empty house, I noticed that Rosie's belongings were missing, a gradual departure I hadn't even noticed. Perhaps she had anticipated my failure to keep the promise, methodically moving her things out without my notice. By the time I realized, Rosie and her possessions had vanished. Remarkably, she hadn't asked for alimony, though she certainly had every right to. I couldn't bring myself to chase after her. Instead, I filled out the divorce papers and submitted them the following day. Regrettably, I never got to hear what Thomas had wanted to say in the conversation Rosie had alluded to. I broke the news of the divorce to Thomas over the phone, lacking the courage to face him. I apologized for failing to take care of Rosie. Thomas's response was neither angry nor sorrowful. He simply said, "I understand," and the call came to an end. Since that day, we haven't spoken. My selfish actions had cost me both my wife and my benefactor in the blink of an eye. The aftermath of the divorce left me utterly shattered. Motivation had abandoned me, leading to frequent work absences and eventually causing me to quit my job. My life, once entirely consumed by work, had crumbled into nothingness. Though I made sporadic attempts to secure employment, I couldn't hold on to a job for long. These days, I barely scrape by, relying on day labor to make ends meet. It's been this way for 5 years, and I've now turned 32. Here I sit in a coffee shop anxiously waiting for Rosie. She reached out to me a few days ago with an unexpected call. She mentioned, "There's someone I want you to meet." I know you might be thinking, isn't she the one who served me divorce papers? But no, I'm the one to blame for the divorce, Henry. You did nothing wrong. No, that's not true, she insisted. Could you meet with me once? There's someone I really want you to meet, someone you want to meet, someone I know you know, but also you don't. I couldn't quite grasp her cryptic words, but the opportunity to apologize directly to Rosie had been a longing within me. This could be my final chance. The old-fashioned door chime tinkled as the coffee shop's entrance swung open. My gaze turned toward it, revealing Rosie and her father, Thomas. When I offered a timid wave, Rosie approached me. The person she wanted me to meet was Thomas. I was curious, given Rosie's cryptic remark about knowing him but not knowing him. Rosie retained her timeless beauty, a stark contrast to the wear and tear I had endured in the past 5 years. She asked about my weight loss, expressing concern about my busy work life. I confessed to quitting my old job, and she tactfully refrained from pressing for further details. Then a voice spoke. "Miss, who is this gentleman over here?" It left me momentarily perplexed. There was only Thomas in front of me. He couldn't possibly forget us given our lifelong connection. He was not one to casually misspeak. I looked to Rosie for an explanation. She wore a saddened expression and revealed, "My dad, you see, he has dementia." Dementia was not foreign to me, but the severity of Thomas's condition hit me with full force. The constant smile on his face had replaced the dignified presence I once knew. He now resembled a cheerful old man, perpetually grinning. Even before the divorce, I had noticed his growing forgetfulness, but it had progressed significantly since then. Rosie sighed and continued, "Before the divorce, there were signs, but I didn't want to burden you with it. You were always so preoccupied with work. I thought we could discuss it more casually, perhaps during a birthday celebration or something." I couldn't help but feel shocked by the change in my benefactor. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked. "I wanted to," Rosie replied, "but you were always so engrossed in your work. I hoped we could find the time to talk about it. I'm sorry I had to move my belongings out bit by bit. I couldn't fully trust that you would keep your promises. So I gradually relocated my things from storage to a studio apartment after the divorce." Regret weighed heavy on me. If only I had kept my promises, Rosie might still be a part of my life. I felt utterly despondent at having let something so precious slip through my fingers. I deeply regret the time that followed our divorce. I lost my motivation and eventually quit my job. I used to believe work was everything, but in the process I stopped paying attention to you, Rosie. I should have communicated my feelings, grievances, and desires more openly. When we were kids, we could talk about anything with each other. I wonder when we lost that ability. Rosie's words pierced through me. We were childhood friends who had taken the significant step of marrying each other. Despite our long history, things had still unraveled. I realized I had taken communication for granted, and feelings of regret and remorse flooded my heart. Suddenly, an interruption came as Thomas, who had been smiling silently, suggested, "Henry, shall we go to the gym? I've got some candies for you, too." Rosie explained to me, "Dad, you see, his memory fluctuates. He remembers and forgets. But lately he's been recalling your name, Henry, and our childhood stories quite frequently. When we look at photo albums, he often gets upset and throws tantrums due to his dementia. But when he remembers you, Henry, he becomes very calm." Understanding the reason behind her request, I nodded, and Rosie continued, "My father's health is deteriorating. He's been in and out of the hospital a lot. When a spot opens up, he'll be admitted to a specialized dementia hospital. But then, I won't be able to see him as often as I can now. That's why, just until he goes into the hospital, why don't you talk to him with me? I want to let him enjoy his memories in a peaceful way while he can remember." I was at a loss for words, but I knew that honoring Rosie's wish and ensuring Thomas, my benefactor, could peacefully relive his memories was of utmost importance. Rosie proposed, "So what do you say, Henry? And Rosie, are you two going to enjoy some outdoor activities again? You two are always full of energy." Although Thomas couldn't recognize Rosie and me right in front of him, he seemed elated when discussing our shared childhood. Rosie continued, "Please, I think we still have time. I'm sorry for the trouble the divorce caused you. I haven't been able to do much for him because of it. That's why I want to do what I can for my father now. What should we do exactly? Why don't we spend time together again, have tea like this occasionally, and go to the gym more often?" Dad says he needs to pick up Rosie and Henry from elementary school, so he might be happy if we take him there. We may not have been the best married couple, but we were more like a family when we were kids. I want to recreate those times when the three of us spent time together. I think Dad will remember more if we do that. I want him to cherish these memories." Rosie sounded determined, and her earnestness was contagious. I acknowledged my past shortcomings and decided to give my all for the next 6 months until a specialized dementia hospital bed became available. During that time, I spent as much time as I could with Rosie and Thomas. There were moments when Thomas would suddenly get angry or drift into his thoughts, but whenever we opened the photo album or revisited places from our past, he remained calm. Sometimes it seemed like he recognized us, while other times he didn't, but none of that truly mattered. What mattered was that Thomas was able to enjoy his cherished memories. Rosie and I found ourselves talking more than we ever did during our marriage. We laughed about how strange it was that we hadn't communicated this much when we were together. 6 months after I began spending time with Thomas and Rosie, Thomas was admitted to a specialized dementia hospital in Arizona out of state. His weakened heart left us with no other option but this facility, despite its distance. We could still visit him, but obviously, not as frequently as before. On the day of his departure, the facility's staff came to pick him up in their car. Thomas, not fully comprehending the situation, wore a smile while Rosie was overwhelmed with tears. "Dad, take care," she managed to say. But Thomas simply continued to smile without uttering a word. However, as he got into the car and the staff rolled down the window, Thomas turned to us and said, "You two, take good care of each other." It was the same phrase he had used at our wedding. Whether he recognized us or simply recalled the wedding, we couldn't discern. Rosie and I replied in unison, "We will," just like we did at the wedding. We waved goodbye until the car carrying Thomas vanished from sight. A month had passed since Thomas's admission to the hospital, and his condition fluctuated. We were planning to visit him together next week. In the meantime, Rosie and I had been meeting frequently. It seemed we both shared the same sentiments of cherishing each other. However, it didn't necessarily mean we wanted to rush into remarriage. We were cautious not to repeat our past mistakes. We believed we could be together without the formality of marriage, searching for a way to remain in each other's lives while caring for one another. Whether that meant remaining a couple or taking the step of marriage again remained uncertain. Nonetheless, Rosie appeared happier now than when we were married, and I was determined to sustain this happiness for as long as possible.